Yo, what's up, y'all? We out here back in these streets as the Buff Missionary. And man, it's been a good day. Had a good workout. Feeling alive, you know? There's a real connection between physical activity and our mental health. So get on that, if you know what I'm saying. Check the other video on it as well. But I want to jump right into this last couple verses of Lamentations chapter 1. And it's really interesting considering how, through what we see here, we get this picture of God as being accepting of our lament. And even though we go through moments in life that are very sorrowful and always not positive, and things that we might respond negatively to and have outbursts towards God about, he can handle it. He's willing to listen, and he's willing to help us, even though a lot of the things that we might be complaining about might even be our own fault. Granted, I guess the obvious caveat should be that everything that happens bad to us isn't because of something that we've done. And that might be very important to say, because I know that at least within Christianity, there's kind of this kind of karma mentality. And I don't think that it works quite the way that we think it does. There are consequences, there are reactions to the actions, but sometimes bad things happen just because sin is in the world, and that's not something that we chose. That's something that someone else chose, and that we have to live with. So I think we have to have a balance in understanding that, sure, for some of the things that we struggled with and we're sorrowful about, we might have brought them on ourselves, but there are a lot of other things and a lot of bigger things that we go through and that we struggle with that don't really have anything to do with us. It's just how this world is and how it operates under the disease of sin. So do with that what you will. But let's go into these last couple verses here of chapter 1. And as always, I said a prayer before jumping into this, and the 4 questions that we use for Bible study that I've been using for my own Bible study and that I'm sharing with you, they'll be down in the description so you can see that as well. All right, where are we? 21 and 22. Verse 21. They have heard that I sigh, but no one comforts me. All my enemies have heard of my trouble. They are glad that you have done it. Bring on the day you have announced, that they may become like me. Lamentations chapter 1 has done a really good job, I think, of encapsulating this feeling of this feeling of abandonment that Jerusalem, the personification of Jerusalem as a city and as a person, the people of Jerusalem, I think it's done a really good job of showing what they feel like. In pain, in sorrow, no one coming to comfort. It's just this barren. You ever felt like at times you want to cry and you just want to, there's something that's happened that you just don't really know how to deal with. It breaks you down, and you look around for people to share that with or experience it with, a shoulder to cry on, and there's nobody there. And so now, not only are you sad and upset for what has happened, but it's compounded because you have no one to comfort you in that moment. That's a hard and a very dark place to be sometimes. And I don't know, based on some of the stories and the things that you hear, people get into those moments and they feel like there's no one there for them ever. And things don't always end the best for some of those people who feel that way. And it's tough because, I don't know, that's not something that I would wish on anybody, you know, but it's something that we feel. And it's something that the Bible writers talked about, and it's something that God is aware of. So we can't treat this kind of feeling, this expression coming from God's own people, like it's something completely foreign, and that we can never admit that we've been there before. I think we can. We can admit that those feelings are possible to be experienced. We can admit that while we feel like we're Christians and God's people, we can go through those kinds of things. And it doesn't mean that God has left us behind or forgotten about us. Sometimes that's just what happens in life. All my enemies have heard of my trouble. They're glad that you have done it. And this is kind of the perspective, right? Because we go through things and we say different things about what we believe and who we rep. And then when something goes wrong, people want to clown all of those things and treat those things like they meant nothing, or that our faith was misplaced, or that we shouldn't have trusted this or that. And because we have now, they want to make us look like a fool. It's possible that there might be something more going on, though, something different than what meets the eye. Is it really that simple? Because for all the people who might be celebrating at someone else's expense, we'd be foolish to think that they've never experienced anything either. And maybe it's the very things that they've experienced and the sorrow and the pain that they've gone through that makes them want to so easily discount the things that you trust in when you have a difficult moment. I think you see this a lot within Christianity, where people who don't believe in God are very quick to jump on, well, God did this and God did that. And it's a tough place to be in. It can be a difficult conversation to try and have, because sometimes people just aren't trying to hear that. It's interesting. Bring on the day that you have announced, that they may become like me. And I guess Jeremiah might be referring to something about what God is going to do to the wicked. And we kind of see this concept experienced by a lot of people in the text, where they're going through the hard time. David is very good at this. When you read through the Psalms, you get to see this frequently, where David is the one going through the struggle at the moment, and it seems like the enemies have triumphed, and yet he's calling out to God, claiming the promise that the enemies are going to fall down and that he's going to be able to rise up and to be redeemed. And it's kind of like a call back to that here, that Jeremiah is proclaiming on behalf of Israel. 22, let all their wickedness come before you, and do to them as you have done to me. For all my transgressions, for my sighs are many, and my heart is faint. Jeremiah is tapping into something here that you hear brought up a lot today, where it's kind of like the why do bad things happen to good people, and why do good things happen to bad people, and why does it seem like at the moment where bad things are happening to good people, the bad people are all thriving? It's an interesting thing. And obviously, I don't think that we can say that this is always true every time something bad is happening to someone good, that the evil people are always thriving. But it's the perception that kind of makes it look that way. And so this same idea that we kind of express here today apparently was expressed on behalf of Jeremiah regarding the personification of Jerusalem and its people back then, thousands of years ago. So it's not a new concept. It's not anything new that that perspective of why are all these things happening to me and everybody else seems to be chilling right now. It's not new. And it becomes very easy to kind of get sucked into our own sorrow and our own personal perspective and kind of get into the poor me kind of thing, right? My sighs are many and my heart is faint. That's a direct callback to the book of Psalms right there. So I didn't even realize that. But I think it's interesting because, once again, this idea of sorrow and the lament, it isn't something that's experienced by one individual only. This is something contextually that's being experienced by an entire nation. So even though it sounds like it's coming from one person, it's really the voice of a collective of people, a lot of people who are experiencing the same thing. So I'm led to think, well, when I'm suffering or going through something that isn't the greatest, or something that I would prefer wasn't happening to me in this moment, how many others might be going through something similar? Is it just me, and is it a poor me kind of situation? Or are there other people that I might be able to connect with in the midst of the struggle? A friend of mine, I was kind of helping her study and put together this essay outline. And I didn't even think about it until just a couple seconds ago. But the paper is actually well connected to this concept. It's talking about humanity being shaped by various experiences, and a lot of the experiences that people document and that people tell the greatest and deepest and most impactful stories about happen to be tragedies and stories about sorrow, stories that would require empathy and connecting with people in their pain. You think of Shakespeare's greatest writings are what? Like you think of Romeo and Juliet. Was that Shakespeare? I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But that's a tragedy. Perhaps the most well-known of whoever wrote it, and yet it's a sad story. You think of other things that people, they're crying out, and their pain and kind of the bearing of the soul to nature and humanity. And these are the things that people resonate with. That sorrow. Almost more so than happy moments. It's interesting. And I think while it's easy for us to think that, oh, poor me, and I'm the only one this is happening to, maybe something that God wants us to realize is that this is a collective. And we're all struggling with something, and there's a bunch of people even struggling with the same thing as me and you right now. But if that's the case, what kind of relationships might be strengthened and bolstered by finding the community within the sorrow? They say, I think it's the Bible that says something about two going together is good, but a cord of three can't be easily broken. And we already know that there's strength in numbers. So the more of you that there are together to share a similar sentiment or to rejoice in a particular area, the better. The rejoicing becomes stronger, and the solidarity and the encouragement becomes stronger if it's for something sorrowful. How can we use the things and the experiences that we go through not to look internally and say, poor me, but to look on the outside and say, who can I connect with? And who can I lean on their shoulder and they lean on mine, because we both understand this thing that we're going through? I think that's something that God is speaking to me, at least, with through the text. And hopefully you're hearing something that God is trying to communicate to you through the text. Sure, our sighs are many. How many times you face something you don't want to, and it's just let that out, right? And our hearts feel faint, yes. But how many others feel the same way? It's not just you, and it's not just me. And we can connect with others and be strengthened by each other. And I would dare say that those who claim to be Christians have a responsibility to reach out to others, especially within their sorrows, and not to act like the sorrows and the hard times are not anything that they ever experience, but to identify, to embrace those situations and to identify others that they can identify with in those situations. And they can help people feel like, yeah, this is more real. It's not because of some bad karma and because I'm a bad person that these things are happening. But there's a family for me within this. And there are others who care about me in the midst of this struggle. I don't know, something to think about. Anyways, it's getting kind of late. And that's Lamentations chapter 1. We'll see where it goes from here. But until the next one, we out here and we out. Peace.